Hello friends, I'm coming to you from my on-campus office today. Sorry that it's not as fancy looking. So now it's time for us to dive into Ayurveda. And what that means is that we are going to be leaving China behind and coming into India. So there may be concepts between Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine that are similar. For example, in that our bodies have an energy structure to them, but these are culturally very different. In traditional Chinese medicine, we've been talking about principles that were gleaned from Confucianism, Taoism, and all these kinds of things. And now we're going to be crossing to the other side of the Himalayan mountains, and we're in India, and we're talking about things that are from Hinduism. The core language is Sanskrit. We're going to be talking about concepts that are just as old and are culturally different. Now, the reason that it's really important to me that we include this unit in our class, even though Ayurveda is not something that I have personally done like a deep dive into as a massage therapist, is because Ayurvedic principles have permeated the Western wellness industry to a high level. So yoga, for example, that comes from Ayurveda. This idea about auras, this comes from Ayurveda. And there's plenty of wellness practices such as doing a cleanse, taking turmeric. These things are all things that have been borrowed from Ayurvedic wellness practices. And the danger is that if you're just cherry picking these little ideas and you have no concept of how they're hooked together, how they're used in context, and what they really mean and why they're doing the things that they're doing, then it is almost a guarantee that it's going to be misapplied. And we'll talk about that as we go through each unit here. So I think it's really important for massage therapists and wellness practitioners to have a basic understanding of the concepts behind Ayurveda, and that is just because it's everywhere. And you want to be able to recognize when you're dealing with something that has a deep cultural context, so that we're being respectful of where these practices came from. So here we go. Over the next weeks, we're going to be talking about the basic concepts involved in Ayurveda. And the first one will be Koshas, and we will cover that in this video here today. We will also be talking later about elements and doshas, marma points, chakras, Ayurvedic detoxing, and what Ayurvedic massage looks like. So these are all of the things that we will be covering in the coming units. This Ayurvedic unit will have 2 tests, and because we also have to talk about Thai massage on the end, the Ayurvedic tests are going to be a little bit closer together and cover less material, like be more focused on the material than the traditional Chinese medicine quizzes that were quite spread out through the semester. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to start with this principle of koshas, and you really can't understand anything that they're trying to do in Ayurveda if you do not understand the principle of koshas. It's like the first meat and potatoes item that we're going to look at. So koshas means sheath, like the sheath of a sword, right? The idea is that we're kind of like Russian nesting dolls with these layers. And each layer is metaphorically and metaphysically deeper, as in closer to our true self, right? That does not mean that they are physically smaller and layered inside one another. For example, your energy body or your aura extends beyond your physical body. So it's not physically smaller, but it's seen as metaphysically being closer to your true self, right? So let's talk about the individual bodies. We're going to have a focus on the first two, but we will review all of them. So the first one is your Annamaya, and this is a Sanskrit word, right? The Annamaya is your physical sheath, so that's like your body, but it also encompasses things like your state of being in your body. When they're talking about your Annamaya, they're talking about not just the fact that you have a body, but also what your body's reactions to foods are. Like, are you allergic to strawberries, you know? Your tendency to gain or lose weight easily or not. Your tendency towards, like, maybe you're really sensitive to respiratory illness, but you're really, but you have an iron gut, you know? So when we talk about the Sanskrit concept of the Annamaya, it reflects the qualities of your physical container. As in, like, you're going to hear in the future, in the next week, about your constitutional type. And your Annamaya, it's not just your physical body, it's also the tendencies and qualities of your particular body. That's your Annamaya. And that's the one that's easiest to understand. This also is the one that's most easily affected by massage and body work and wellness intervention, right? Because you can change the way you eat, you can change how much exercise you're doing, you can massage the body, we can directly affect the body. So this is one that we focus on in Ayurvedic wellness and bodywork practices. That's Annamaya, right? The next one is the Pranamaya. Pranamaya. And this is the life force sheath. This is sometimes translated as the vital body or the energy body. Prana means breath in Sanskrit, and so the vital body or the life force sheath, it's trying to communicate that this is like your aliveness. But also, this is what you think of when we think of the concepts of your aura, when we think of the concepts of like your energy and where your chakras are and stuff. That is all from Ayurveda, and they're talking about your pranamaya in that case. That's your energy body. Now, remember, this energy body, this vital body, overlaps your physical body. They both exist in the same space, right? And in this system, they strongly believe that what you do to affect your energetic system will affect your physical health. So if we think of it as this analogy, your blood rests inside your body, and if something in your blood is out of balance, like your blood sugar levels or your blood calcium levels, then your whole body will be affected, right? And so, like, if you're in your energy body, in their view of the world and health, if your energy body is out of balance, that will have a physical effect on your actual physical body. And so that is why keeping the energy in mind in Ayurvedic practices is important, and that's the link between like some of the more the things that sound kind of outlandish from Western perspective, is like, why are you trying to take a bunch of turmeric that doesn't necessarily have nutritional value, right? Well, for them, depending on your constitutional type, and they would not tell every single person to take turmeric with activated black pepper, you know, or whatever. They would not tell every single person to, you know, do some of these detoxes and cleanses that we have kind of come up with in the West. But depending on your body, depending on your constitutional type and your energy, and are you depleted or excessive or whatever, then they're going to have recommendations for you, right? Just like a doctor's not going to prescribe a blood thinner to everyone who walks in the door, they're not going to have everyone who walks in the door be taking turmeric. Okay, I'm sorry, the turmeric thing, I got off on a tangent there. But the point is, your pranayama, your energy body, this is your vital life force. This is what you think of as your aura. This is what you think of as your energetic self. And that is this concept that they have that is very central to their spirituality, right? Now, the things that we do, because the pranayama and the ayamana, or anamaya, the anamaya and the pranamaya, your physical body and your energy body, are overlapped and linked and affect one another. These are the two that we focus on for body work and wellness, right? The rest of these I will introduce, but these are not things that can be affected by an outside person. The rest of these that I'm about to introduce are things that you can affect with your own meditation practices and your own, moments of enlightenment and whatnot. And that's how they would see it, right? They would not see it as the rest of these being something you could really access with massage or with diet or something. So the next one is the manomaya. That's your mental sheath. They see this as the part of your beingness that connects your sensations and experiences to your inner world. So this is the messenger system, basically, between your perceptions of the world and your mental patterns and emotions, right? So if I'm asleep and my cats are snuggling in the same room, I don't perceive them. And so that doesn't affect me emotionally. But if I'm awake and my manomaya is active and present in the world and I see my cats snuggling, I'm gonna go, oh, and it affects me. So our manomaya is the mental sheath that is the part of you that sees and interprets and communicates your sensations into your beingness, right? Yeah, all right, good. I'm not going to be good at pronouncing this next one. I don't actually speak Sanskrit. I'm going to go with Vijnanamaya. Vijnanamaya. This one is your wisdom sheath. This is like your central observer, the part of you behind your conscious thoughts that is looking out at the world and at yourself, that sees the world but isn't like talking or speaking or stuff. It's just the center of you that you can perceive and think of or perceive from. This is sometimes called your awareness sheath. So they see this as like the source of your personality, right? So we have our physical body, we have our energy body, we have our manomaya, we have the mental sheath that's interpreting and absorbing all of our experiences. And what it's absorbing it into is this wisdom sheath or awareness sheath. So this is like the core of your personality, and or like the core of, I see, let's say that I'm walking along and I see, I should have thought of an example ahead of time. Let's say I'm walking along and I see two people fighting. And so depending on my personality, my first reaction might be to step in and break it up. My first reaction might be to call the police. My first reaction might be to run away and pretend I didn't see anything. Like you have unconscious impulses that that are based around your personality and the core of who you are. And so this wisdom sheath, this awareness sheath, that's like the core of who you are. And again, it's not necessarily inside the other ones. It's just the part of you that's closer to your true self, right? And the very last one is Anandamaya. Anandamaya. And that's your essence sheath. This is the deepest, the corest, the mostest part of ourselves. And it is said that this cannot be described in words. It can only be felt in moments of enlightenment. So if you are in touch with your Anandamaya, it's like you're transcending to a state of being, if you're transcending, if you're within your Anandamaya and that's where you're like living in, that state is called samadhi, or unity between your individuality and universal consciousness. So this essence sheath, this Anandamaya, is sometimes called your bliss body, because being in that state of samadhi is said to be the most peaceful, blissful, joyful, and ultimately connected state of being that is possible. And this is something they would reach through years and years of meditation. So those are your koshas, okay? Your physical body, your life force or energy body, your mental sheath, your wisdom sheath, your essence sheath. And again, they're not actually like Russian nesting dolls. It's just that this is conceptually, each one is closer and closer to enlightenment, to your true self, to your divine connection with the universe. And this is how they see it. And you can see, once you are looking at the whole picture, that as you go in towards your center, you are more and more at one with the universe, which is their state of enlightenment. We are talking about a spiritual, cultural concept here. So when I say that we want to have respect for this form of body work and we want to avoid taking these concepts out of context and using them in a flippant way, it's because this is a deeply cultural, meaningful, spiritual practice and set of beliefs. So, I mean, just take for a second this idea that maybe you're on vacation to, I don't know, China or whatever, somewhere far away with a different culture. You're on vacation there, and you walk into a gift shop in a mall, and they have, like a little shelf of Buddhas and a little shelf of other bodhisattvas, and they have a little shop with like Krishna and other religious Hinduist figures, and then they have, or they have the little areas of the shop, and then they have a little shop, or a little section, with rosaries and Christ statues and actual communion wafers. And they say, oh yeah, no, it's very good for your karma to eat these communion wafers, and they're just selling communion wafers. Now, someone who was Catholic would take a big issue with that, about communion wafers being distributed in that way, right? Because in Catholicism, you've got to be confirmed as a Catholic. There's a whole ritual behind the distribution of the communion wafers. And they should be blessed by a priest. You shouldn't just walk over and like pay $1.50 and get a communion wafer and it's good for your karma. Karma isn't even like, that would be a massive misapplication of this cultural concept of a communion wafer. So when I say that we as wellness professionals are interacting with these deep cultural, spiritual concepts, and it's our responsibility to not confabulate these concepts of this is a religious practice and this is a health wellness practice. So if I do this spiritual stuff and I coach my clients to do this stuff that has this spiritual, deep history, that's going to be a good wellness practice taken out of context. Just, just like you wouldn't want, or a Catholic wouldn't want you to take that communion wafer distributed out of context, because it wouldn't even be doing what Catholics use that for, right? It wouldn't be being blessed. It wouldn't be like an actual communion. It's taken completely out of context in that way. So my point is, we're going to be going over a lot of concepts just to understand what they are doing in Ayurveda, Ayurvedic wellness practices, and Ayurvedic massage. And this is an online class. I can't have a high quality, good back and forth dialogue with you guys, but I'm really hoping that you take that understanding as you move through, that we don't get a carte blanche. We don't have a right to take other people's spiritual practices and use them at our convenience just because we're massage therapists and we're seen as wellness professionals, right? I'm not sure if what is happening with the Ayurvedic practices and the wellness industry in the West can properly be called cultural appropriation, because typically in cultural appropriation, the source culture is being like squashed, and like there's punishments towards the original people whose culture it is, and they're being penalized in some way for engaging in it, or persecuted, and I don't believe that's the case in Ayurveda. I believe that if you go to India, Ayurvedic practices are still very alive and well. And so that being said, it might not fit the technical definition of cultural appropriation, but it's still not very respectful of us to do that. And in some cases, it can be harmful to people's health, which we'll cover in a future unit. But I'm going to get off my soapbox. That's Koshas. What I would like, a really great topic for your discussion post for this intro to Ayurveda and Koshas unit is to talk about what have you encountered from Ayurveda in your journey up to this point, and was there anything about Koshas that confused you, or that you had heard before? So there you go. See you next time. Bye.